Let's first and foremost actually talk about this. So, hydrogen is really just the fucking nucleus of an atom. You gotta, hopefully, you have a neutron. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get electrons, sometimes you don't. That kind of thing, right? And it's like, wait, what? You should always have electrons. And it's like, yeah, no, but there's only one in the orbit, and they always like to share, or just like, it's pretty easy to remove it for what it's worth. You know what I mean? So it's really at that point just a proton when you think about it, which is a bunch of quarks, right? Standard shit. Of course, quarks are really small, blah, blah. Let's not get into that. Let's get into, like, quarks are made up out of, like, gluons and some other, fundamental force stuffy thingies, just kind of congealed in some thing, and then, like, they kind of act as, like, I'm this, that kind of system, you know what I mean? I'm an amalgamation of several things that then means I do this to stuff around me, basically, right? But I'm all, like, positive and shit. Like fucking, oh my god, motivating speech guy here. You know what I mean? Like my old character back in the day. Right, cream always rises to the top like you and I will go for the fucking world, man. Anyways, point is, whole thing, but it's like, okay, wait. If I cool that off, right, hydrogen here, standard shit, I get it to like liquid, right? But it's like I don't need to compress it that much. Right, if I can rip off the electrons, which pretty easy when it's cold, it's just that you have to keep maintaining cold, right? Then you end up having to utilize, like, not the electrostatic effect anymore, because, like, normally you have to do this virtual state electron sort of business for light emittance, where you pop it up to a higher point, and then you can rip it the fuck off really easily by getting light in that area, and then it goes off together with that. Once you get that electromagnetic, well, actually this would be electrostatic, and it'd be a current, so you'd be kind of making a really positively charged thing right over there that's pretty close, and then you go like, hey, don't worry, I'm also spinning, and here's a good electromagnetic field you'd like to be a part of, right? As I then also have all these other electrons moving that direction, standard stuff, right? Anyways, but it's like, all right, so the electrons are gone, standard thing, right? And it makes it really, really cheap, simple, easy, quick, low energy, right, to get there. As you light emit, you can get it colder and colder as you get faster and faster, but then you can go like boom, 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 node, anti-node shit, right? And then it drops and spins and kind of starts aligning, right? As you do that, you can get like an electromagnetic field there, and then you can basically get them to align with this positive to this negative for those quarks that exist in there. Now, once you do that, it's like, all right, well, this is just a plasma that's a liquid, right? It's like, well, no. You're right, kind of, but wrong, technically. Okay, like, that's how that works. It's technically not going to be fusing anything. Like, it's getting really close. Those nuclei, that thing that's made out of, right, like quarks, gluons, right, that kind of thing. But it's like, you just got to get them close enough to get to the point where you can phase that baryon to a fermion, and then you can get them to, I'm kind of loosely, but it's kind of like I'm sharing, like a covalent, and then I switch to kind of ionic, kind of bond, right? Now these are nuclear forces. You can't do that with those electromagnetic fields that drop moments of total, actual, like, force in those areas, in those small, tiny little gap moment areas that are, energy barrier areas. You can't do that. Except, no, you can do that, actually. 100% you can. It's like, okay, but don't worry, right? Like, that's a good thing. You want that, okay? Because once you can get them like that, it's now a liquid. It's also a very dangerous liquid. And it's not a plasma. It's a liquid hydrogen that is extraordinarily close and dense together, that's technically a little metastable, so long as you can use a light and electromagnetic field to basically bounce them off of that in a container, right? So like they can stay in that. Otherwise, it's highly reactive. Everything that it will get near will decide to effectively take any electrons from that. Any of them at all. What is that? You got borosilicate glass? That's oxygen. Give me that. But you got anything whatsoever, I'm going to take all the electrons from it. That's what that is, right? But it's like, wait a second. If you do it a little bit differently and you switch that, basically it combines slightly offset, and you allow for a positive, and so this would be like it's an electron with a positive quark, or fucking forget what the hell this is called. Point is, it's effectively making a type of bonding happen when you phase that in at the correct angles with that rotation, right? So what that does is that creates a virtual state that then collapses, and it combines where that other this is like my Lemke bonding technique, right? It's another 4-hour or something video on my YouTube, but it's like, okay, this allows for that quark to quark gluon kind of positive negative force, right, to bind. Okay, same thing with that electron, where now it's a hydrogen ionic metallic bond that is now metastable, and it's superconducting, quite likely. That's the thing, they like to tunnel. So like when you force a given phononic resonance together with light that then happens to phase through in virtual state, you reduce the energy barrier for tunneling electrons in a highly specific manner, meaning ordered and non-chaotic, so that you know where they are at every point, and you create a superconducting material. Pretty simple. Just got to do that. There you go. Just,